Now, China's 5G era has finally arrived. Last Friday, China flipped the switch to launch the world's largest 5G network months ahead of schedule. But by becoming one of the first to launch 5G nationwide after South Korea, some say that China is also taking its first global leadership role in mobile technology. So what's the broader significance of this launch, given that Washington has made technological supremacy one element of its trade war with China? And beyond political issues, what are the challenges in terms of costs and technology to further expanding the reach of 5G across China and around the world? Well, joining our studio is our guest, Professor Zhang Fan, an Associate Professor of Astronomy at Beijing Normal University, and also Einar Tangen, our current affair commentator. Thank you so much for being here. So let me start with you, Einar. How would you explain the significance of this 5G launch? Why does it matter to everybody?
Because when you're first in the race like this, it means that everybody's going to come to you. I mean, this is going to be the proving ground. All of the parts and programs that will be important to the development of 5G are done here. It's not, people in the US or Europe aren't going to say, well, we'll just wait here until it comes, because they'll be past it. There will be groups here who will be working on that, and they will get it. There's a tremendous amount of jobs that are going to be involved in this, and then there's all the peripheries. But one thing that people don't understand is that this part, that 5G is actually more about business than it is about the consumer. There's so many parts of this that are going to allow businesses to work much more efficiently, and this is what the internet has always brought to us. I mean, it's just, shopping online. Come on, who doesn't love that? But it's an efficiency. You don't have to pay for the bricks and mortar, right? Inventory is easier to control. You know where things are. Your money is being paid electronically. Things are working better. It results in lower prices, and this is kind of efficiency. There are other sides to this in terms of jobs and things like that.
Yeah, 5G promises super fast data speeds, like you mentioned, enabling a lot of things, and these are also the technology that will provide support for innovations like driverless cars. So, Professor Zhang, let me bring you into this. Give us a sense of its broader potential benefits, society-wide or economically speaking, because a lot of users might think they are good with what they have now. 4G works just fine. So why is 5G so important?
Well, I'm one of them. So to me, the download speed doesn't really matter. As long as my video downloads faster than the video actually plays, I'm not going to notice any difference. But that's besides the point. The 5G is not really for human internet. It's really for the Internet of Things. Its core tenets are the low latency, able to connect to more devices, and robustness. All of that are obviously for example, driverless driving, autonomous driving, for automated manufacturing, that sort of things.
Agriculture.
Agriculture, yeah.
And China initially planned to launch this thing in 2020. So how was it able to do it? Not only move things ahead of schedule, but also launch things faster than the United States, faster than the UK. Was the decision based on technological capacity, or there's politics involved, or a combination of both?
So technological limits really sets the date, the earliest date that you can launch this thing. You really don't want to launch something immaturely, and if people try it and that it doesn't work, then it will really be a problem if you want people to switch over to that. But politics is always involved in this sort of fundamental infrastructure project. You really should think of this more like the high-speed rail network. A lot of new economy is going to spring up on top of that, and it's going to cost a lot of money. It's in the region of $1 trillion. So government backing is needed to make sure that people think this will be successful.
And along with the politics is regulation, because as you said, you don't want something launching prematurely. But if the government starts saying, look, we need to make this priority, they can put more manpower, more expertise into making sure that they have a comfort level with the launch itself.
So, like you said, in China, this thing works as a partnership between government and industry, so they work in tandem. Is it necessary, though, to bring 5G to life? How does it compare to other countries?
Well, if you want to do it quickly, then sure. At least the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology has been instrumental in terms of coordinating. So putting all the different sectors of industry together, at least like band their heads together and try to solve the problems.
And you could see this in both Europe and America. Everyone, German efficiency, right? But Germany is actually 23rd out of 26 nations in terms of the speed of the internet. that they have. Why? Because they have a large entities that are in charge on top of the 4G right now, and they have made investment, and they want to get as much money back out of their investment before they have to go into the next technology. And you have that also in the U.S. I mean, in the U.S., the issue there is the spectrum. They, military and everyone fought over what spectrum would be allowed for 4G, and they ended up designated very high bandwidth that's out there. But that requires more radios, more expense, and there's so many competing interests involved in all of these things that negotiating it really is. So when you said banging heads, that's exactly what it is, because the government here can say, look, progress is what we're aiming at. We're not that concerned about your petty concerns about profit. You're going to have to try to figure that out on your own. We'll give you some leeway, but right now it's get to the point.
Right. China's obviously a huge market. It has 1 billion mobile users. The number is massive, and we have 3 major service providers now launching its service: China Telecom, China Unicom, China Mobile. And the service fee, let's take a look at it. Monthly fee is now set as low as 128 yuan, or about $18 US. I mean, I pay about the same price for my 4G phone now. So when I first hear the price, I think it's highly affordable. But of course, if you want more data in your plan, the price can go up to as high as 599 yuan, or around $85 US. So what do you think of the price, first of all? How do you think the public or the market will respond to that?
So a lot of people think that price is actually pretty steep, because per gigabytes of data, that's about the same as South Korea. However, that's already pretty cheap, to be honest, because this 5G thing, the electricity bill for the telecommunication companies is massive. The base station, they draw so much power, it's just going to be very expensive for them to run. However, they set the price this low precisely. They want you to switch over, and they chose that price precisely because it looks like a 4G price, right?
Einar, your thoughts on this? Because some experts suggest that the monthly fee is still expensive for some users, and that could result in a low penetration rate overall.
Well, I think, as we were talking about before, they need to draw consumers in to establish that base and pay for the thing, for the actual installation. But actually, this is more about business to business. All right, this is the things that we were talking about, the Internet of Things, how you can make things work more efficiently. So gradually over time, hopefully the costs of that will be pushed over. Most individuals really don't. As you said, as long as my video gets to me and I don't have any interruptions, I'm fine. There might be some game playing, but there will be a change here. You know, think of how much your phone plays in your life. I mean, right now, and it's going to get more so, because now it's not about power, because with 5G you can literally attach any computer system out there, a big one in the cloud, that can do any kind of computational thing that you need. The only thing you're limited with your hand is the size of the screen, and now with the folding ones, perhaps that's overcoming. So perhaps fewer laptops and fewer desk stations will be necessary. So these will create changes in the way that people react to them, and they might see the need or the advantage in having 5G, especially on the business side.
How fast do you predict the transition to 5G will happen? Because some are saying that we don't have enough 5G capable handsets now in the market, so they say that the transition might be slow.
So if you take 4G, for example, that took 2 to 3 years. For 5G, right now, the basic limiting factor is not the number of handsets. There's already been a large number of them being pushed out in the last few days, even. But the problem is in the number of base stations. Again, the basic infrastructure. We're going to have 130,000 by the end of this year. But 4G stations, you have like 5 million of them. So there's still a gap to go. But next year onwards, they're up there.
One thing about consumers, I mean, for instance, why do people buy the next new iPhone or the next new Huawei or something like that? Do they actually need it? No, part of it is status, and part of it is they're faster. Sometimes people compare their ability to take photographs. Oh, my lens is better than your lens. And when people try 5G, even if it's on their friend's phone, and they see how quick it is, and they go, oh, I can play this game, it becomes kind of thing, well, I want one of those. Right,
definitely. And another thing about 5G is that it's now widely seen as a battleground for global technology supremacy. And the United States is now watching that. President Trump earlier said this year publicly that, you know, the race to 5G is on and America must win. Einar, how do you see this reaction from the United States there?
The U.S. is lost. I mean, they're not even in the race. Qualcomm has some handset IP. That's fine. Some of the chipset things and things like that. But the actual backbone is either you can choose Europe or China, but there's no other. So at this point, for him to say that, it just doesn't make any sense. This is just political posturing. He's doing it. Actually, I mean, what he's trying to do is not compete. All right, he's trying to trip up the competition and try to take advantage of that and let U.S. companies kind of come in. They're only going to be starting auctioning off the lower frequency spectrums that will bring down the cost because of the number of stations, base stations that we'll need will come down. They're only going to do that this December. Right, so now there has to be all sorts of rejigging of the things. This is not something where you just put it together with paper clips and things like that. This has to be done. China already has the technology. It's going to be the U.S. that has to figure out some way of kind of paralleling or copying. Ooh, where's that word come from? Chinese technology and trying to do workarounds.
Professor?
Right. So yeah, the U.S. problem in 5G is really self-inflicted. The spectrum thing, the military hogging all the good spectrum, and really this tech war thing is really the U.S. playing solo. I've never heard of any Chinese company trying to we're going to dominate the U.S. on technology or anything like that. To that point, on 5G, Huawei even floated the idea of licensing its entire 5G portfolio to a U.S. company to try to help them catch up. So, hopefully in the future.
You notice the resounding silence that followed that.
Right. Might not get good receptions there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you know, what's happening is that despite the fact that China launched 5G before the U.S., some tech CEOs in the States still think that China still have a long way to go before they can threaten America's supremacy in innovation. Here's a quote from the CEO of Hewlett-Packard. He said to Forbes that he's impressed by China's growing technological self-sufficiency, but the reality is that he's saying that they need the West to continue to teach them and to enable them. Do you agree with that kind of assessment?
Well, the choice of words is a little condescending and obnoxious. However, coming down to content, there is a bit of a truth in that. So Chinese companies are very good at turning abstract concepts into real practical things that solve real-world problems. In other words, they're good at commercialization. But a lot of the original idea comes from the West and Japan, actually.
Yeah, but interesting enough, if you start looking at the patents and the names of the people who are running, it's not Smith and Brown, it's Wong and Patel. So the intellectual firepower behind a lot of these ideas are coming from overseas. And now Donald Trump he's trying to erect walls. He doesn't want those people there anymore. And if you're a Chinese professor, you might be suspected of being a spy. So they're going to lose that edge.
So we'll take a look at, keep monitoring the situation there, I guess. Thank you very much for your insights. We're going to have to go. Professor Zhang Fan, Associate Professor from Beijing Normal University, and Einar Tangen. Many thanks.